I believe Israel Adesanya is on performance-enhancing drugs, and I'm going to use this video to tell you guys why, because I feel like I owe you guys this video, because I've been dancing around the topic for so long. I've put like a needle in his arm in a thumbnail here and there, and in a prediction video I'll mention, you know, Israel Adesanya's on roids, so I give him like a bit of an advantage there as well. Like, I just keep dancing around the topic, so I'm going to make a video today breaking down why I believe Israel Adesanya's on PEDs, and laying out all of the reasons why I believe so. Now, I made a video about Usman not too long ago, also being on PEDs. I did it just before More Plates, More Dates made his video, and he kind of confirmed exactly what I said, and in that video completely blew up as well, and that got a bunch of views. I think it's at 80,000 views or something along those lines. I'm not going to be able to do this the same way I did that one, because in my opinion with Usman, there's way more visible evidence. I know there's obviously Israel Adesanya grew a breast in the middle of his career, so that is some really visible evidence, okay? But with Usman, it was more like there was a quote from this little news source. There was like Usman in this picture and these marks on Usman's back, and then Usman, and like an article about what his dad did for a living, and he was a corrupt pharmacist. What do you know? The only guy I've ever heard of who has a corrupt pharmacist as a dad is also the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. Shock. But I'm not going to be able to do that with this video, because it's going to be more of a verbal narration of why I believe Israel Adesanya's on PEDs. So let's get straight into it. So Israel Adesanya was at the press conference yesterday and said he would offer anyone $3 million if they can provide conclusive, concrete evidence that he has ever been on PEDs. And he also said some stuff about, like, I don't even know how they work and all that stuff. Like, that is the cringiest thing to hear, because you can watch one video on YouTube or look up one internet article and you can realize how they work and make it happen. So whenever fighters play that dumb about it, like, oh, what is it, Icarus, is that what it is? And he's clicking his finger like, dude, you know what it is, and stuff like that. And he even mentioned that, you know, Turinabol that John Jones took, or was it Turinabol in his BT interview? Like, it's just like, dude, you know all of these words. Stop playing like you have never heard them before. You've been roasting Jones for the past however many years about Turinabol, but he, like, mispronounces it in his interview on BT Sport as, like, Turinabol. You know, I didn't even hear about it before John Jones. Like, dude, you grew up in kickboxing. You were in Thailand. You were in China, kickboxing around the world, competing night after night. Not night after night, but, like, some tournaments, maybe, who knows. Like, you've seen how it works. You've been around the game. I wish he just wouldn't play this. I've never even seen it. Like, dude, you've been in so many gyms for kickboxing. You've definitely seen it. It's a massive part of the sport, and it's just cringy to me. But here's why. I didn't actually believe Israel Adesanya was on PEDs until he grew a breast in the middle of his career. It's crazy to even say this stuff out loud, because this should be like, okay, he's on it, but, like, I still have to make this video, I guess. I didn't believe he was on anything until he grew a boob as a male in the middle of his career, just before the most dominant fight of his career against Paulo Costa, the best performance we've ever seen. Since then, it's just been leg kicking at range and no power punches and no knockout power or anything like that. But, you know, for that Paulo Costa fight, man, he was on. And damaging. I mean, he barely glanced Paulo Costa with a knuckle on the side of his temple, and he went down and it was over. This is a Paulo Costa who took haymakers from Yoel Romero square on the chin and got right back up. But, you know, Paulo Costa was drunk, perhaps, who knows. I didn't believe he was on anything. I saw some interviews, like 3 years ago, he did an interview with the Schmo, basically saying, like, if anybody offers me roids, I'm going to snitch on him. And I thought that was a bit weird. What, like, I've never seen any fighter, like, mention roids as much as him on the come-up. Like, if anybody even offers me roids, I'll snitch on them, I don't care. And I was like, okay, that's an interesting moment there from the Schmo 3 years ago, before any of these accusations began. Like, there were no real accusations on Israel Adesanya. He hadn't grown a boob yet in the middle of his 30s, okay? So it was weird that he would bring it up and be like, I've never even seen it. Like, if anyone offers me it, I'll snitch on him. So don't even offer me them. Like, he's got, like, a real, like, it's on the back of his mind to mention it a lot. A lot of fighters get these accusations. Like, every champion probably gets these types of accusations in their career. But for Israel Adesanya, he's really vocal about how he's not on anything and he can prove it. And he'll offer $3 million. First of all, more plates, more dates should be getting $3 million from you. Okay? But here's the reason. He grew a breast before the most dominant fight of his career against Paulo Costa. This just so happened to be, by the way, the fight after the world got sent into a global lockdown. Okay? So maybe, who knows, shipments were a little bit low, and there was a bit of a mess up to a routine that someone might have had, and that imbalance caused a full-sized boob to grow on an Israel Adesanya's body, nowhere near puberty, no puffy nipple beforehand, or like a time, oh, he's always kind of had it, but then this kind of just sort of went overboard. Like, he's never really shown any signs of it. There's been some slight puffiness, but not enough to say anything about it or anything like that, to where you can notice, like, that guy's got a bit of gyno. Like, we had this with William Knight. He had a bit of a puffy one, and I was like, that's a bit weird, but, you know, I'll let Derek from More Plates, More Dates deal with that one. But then Israel Adesanya's, like, out of nowhere grows a boob in the middle of, like, a global lockdown on one of the most remote first world islands on earth. He's from a kickboxing background, okay? He blames it on weed. Guys, I've done enough of that in my life, and nothing's ever happened like that. And I understand that I'm not everyone, you know, and sometimes for others it could happen. Not when you're in peak physical condition year-round, nowhere near puberty. You're probably not doing it like Snoop Dogg's doing it, you know what I mean? You're probably having a little bit of Snoop Dogg's joint, who knows? Just a couple of puffs of that, and that's enough to cause a full-on C-cup breast to just fucking pop out of one side of your body. It just didn't make any sense to me. But it's mainly like the responses that Israel Adesanya has had that really confirm it for me, because I feel like Israel Adesanya, I know people will say like the confidence of Israel is unmatched, but I think he's like one of the most insecure people I've met. Or I've never met him, but I think he's one of the most insecure people I've ever, like, seen on video. Like, the amount that's, like, he forces himself to be cool, and everything about him is like he's playing a character that is someone that he truly isn't. Okay, like, you mention Alex Pereira's name around him, sheesh, you mention any other middleweight's name, yeah, he'll make a joke about them, something like this. What about Alex Pereira? You haven't seen the first fight. Nobody's even done their research in here. You haven't even watched what was happening before the knockout. You didn't even watch the first fight that we had. Everyone's got a TikTok memory. No one knows what's really going on. And all of this type of stuff that he comes out with. And I'm like, okay, like, sheesh, we won't ask about Alex Pereira, dude. Sorry. And things that really get him riled up are like truth. They're like the things that hit him hard. So when he gets these accusations after, like, and he gets the 50 jacket and he starts showing off, and he's always been after Jones about that kind of stuff, and never me, I'd never do it, but Jones, everyone look at Jones. He's on that Turinabol, is it? Or what was that film? I watched it the whole way through. Icarus? Like, it's just weird to me. And then his responses at press conference, Marvin Vettori brought it up and he was just like, he just sort of like didn't even answer it and put the mic down and just let the moment sit in silence until a next reporter came up and asked a question. And then Ariel Hawani was interviewing him about it, and he said like, I'm blaming it on, I think it was the weed, you know, I had a doctor report and it showed no imbalance of hormones in the body and all of this type of stuff that he was going into. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, dude, show us. Like, he's like, he said at his press conference yesterday, everybody's having these accusations based on nothing. You grew a breast. That's never happened before. People have a bit of puffiness. No one's grown a full-on breast in the UFC that I can remember. Someone's had a bit of puff here and there, okay? A little bit of puffy nip syndrome has been going around here and there. Davy Grant, I've noticed it with him a little bit. William Knight had it for a fight and we didn't notice it before, so that was a big deal when he first started having it and stuff like that. But then Israel Adesanya grows a full-on breast, and he's the only fighter I can think of to have it to that kind of level. And he just so happens to be, what do you know, the best pound-for-pound fighter in his weight class Not best pound for pound fighter. He's a top pound for pound fighter. He's the best fighter in the world in his weight class by far. I know you can say Whittaker beat him, but on paper, he's the best in his division by far, based on the wins that he has and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what a coincidence. The only fighter ever in UFC history to have a corrupt pharmacist as a father is the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, Kamaru Usman, best in his division by far. Okay? The only fighter to ever grow a full-on boob. A full boob on one side, nothing to something. An entire breast that's now magically disappeared, by the way. I have no idea how he got rid of it. A full-on boob that he's now grown on his body. The only fighter to hatch out that big of a tit in the middle of their career during a global lockdown on one of the most remote islands on Earth, just before his most dominant performance of his entire career, is also the best middleweight on Earth. Oh, what a coincidence. None of the unranked guys. None of them. No one on the come-up. Only the guy on top that people can't beat right now in the middleweight division. And the only guy with pulsing picograms of this and that, and, you know, it's pulsing, but we've never seen anything like this before. Wow! And he's like the best fighter that's ever lived, Jon Jones? What a coincidence! We've never seen a case of this before, but trust us, he's innocent. Just like Brock Lesnar was innocent, USADA. Brock Lesnar failed a drug test before his fight with Mark Hunt, and he was deemed innocent by USADA because without Brock Lesnar, UFC 200 would have been an absolute failure. That's a fact. USADA is not a company. I saw them put that jacket on Israel Adesanya, and I just didn't think anything of it. Wow, he got 50 tests. Cool. Wow, that's cool. Really cool. Interesting. No one cares, USADA. You have no credibility at all. I have no idea how USADA was even thought of as this big. They are famous for catching Lance Armstrong decades after his career, where he basically admitted it himself. Wow. Get them on the case. They're really good at their job. Didn't catch him in the middle of his career. Don't worry, guys, USADA here. The people that caught Lance Armstrong years after his career was over and he accomplished everything that he accomplished. They'll catch him, 3 years after his career's over? A decade after Adesanya's done with the middleweight division and ruined everyone else's career. That's when USADA might catch him. When he's no longer a use to the sport or company. Perhaps. Brock Lesnar, tested, positive. He was on something for the Mark Hunt fights at UFC 200. But Jon Jones, who also failed a test, who was drawn off of that card and ruined the quality of that card because of it, he wasn't. He wasn't on the card anymore. So Brock Lesnar is allowed to compete against Mark Hunt. Why? USADA, you ended up overturning that fight because Brock Lesnar tested positive before the fight. But because the UFC needed Brock Lesnar to be on that card, all of a sudden USADA didn't really care. Oh, well, yeah, he's testing positive, but the UFC needs him, so he's negative to us. USADA has zero credibility as a company. They're not an outsourced company that's like a commission that has no ties with the UFC whatsoever, and the UFC, in order to compete at an event, needs USADA to pass it. You know what I mean? And they're like an independent thing to keep the sport of MMA clear no matter what. They are a company hired by the UFC. They work for the UFC. They are employed by the UFC. If they keep messing up events, like pulling Brock Lesnar off of maybe the biggest UFC card of all time in UFC 200, one of the big ones that they really needed to go well, imagine if USADA got in the way of that. Off goes Jones, off goes Lesnar. The whole card's ruined. Do you think the UFC would employ all of those people and have them have a job and have them get paid for the job that they're doing? Or would they be out on the side again, earning less money? It's almost like they need to comply. It's just weird to me how no one is like, oh, you're just hating. I keep seeing those fucking comments, man. It's so, or they get race involved and all of that bullshit. Like, it's just so stupid to me how there's so many arrows pointing in this direction. And everyone's like, no, he drew in a death note. It couldn't be him. You know what I mean? Like, They just can't accept, like, dude, he's on roids. There's like a absolute correlation between all of these one-in-a-lifetime moments in the sport that could be an adverse reaction from roids or could be a massive bit of evidence towards someone taking roids. And they just happen to be about all of the top fighters. And only the top fighters. GSP dips out before USADA comes in. People act like I don't mention GSP. I mentioned GSP was... There's no, like, concrete evidence or, like, loads of fingers pointing at him. But he was likely on roids. And the best fighter in his division. So was Johnny Hendricks, the only guy who could really challenge him. 170 pounds and arguably beat him in that fight. He was definitely on them as well. Like, I'm not just... It's just that right now in the sport, it's Usman, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, that's parents just so happen to be corrupt pharmacists, like the origin story of like an evil steroid supervillain. His family were corrupt pharmacists and they experimented on him as a child. That's something you'd see in a Marvel comic. And it's Usman, the number one pound-for-pound fighter in the world, by far. No one can beat him. He's got power and cardio. The first time we've ever seen it. A man of a family of corrupt pharmacists. And Israel Adesanya, the best in his division. God, he's so good. He also is the only guy to ever grow a massive boob out of nowhere. But forget about it. You're just hating. He's the best by far. It's just, if Whittaker grew a massive boob, I'd mention it. You know what I mean? I would, and I'd call him out. I'd be like, that's a bit weird. Whittaker's grown a giant boob, but it hasn't happened. There's nothing to this. I get called out about this so much about race. And dude, oh wow, only the Nigerians. It's so, like, dude, if a bunch of Polish fighters started growing boobs, I'd mention it. Okay, I wouldn't be like, I don't see anything, guys. Nothing to see here. And it's why I've been regretting making this video, because I know the backlash that is going to come with it. Adesanya's fan base is all over the Adesanya content at the moment, but it's just weird to me how no one can accept, and the answers that he gives, like Usman even responding to some of these accusations, the yawning that he does. Is it Turinabol? Turinabol. That's what it is. Dude, you know. You've rehearsed this sentence. I know you have. It's so obvious. And they're basing these accusations on nothing. Dude. You grew a boob. Like, it's not nothing to grow a boob. Dude. Can we mention stuff? $3 million. Okay, like, you're obviously not going to give $3 million to anyone. If not, more plates, more dates. He's copping 5 new supercars to go in his garage. Okay? And also, no one can really prove it anyway. So what weight do those words hold? Anyone that can prove it. Dude, you're tested by USADA. If they can't prove it or won't prove it, who knows? Because, you know, you're only like the biggest star in the UFC outside of McGregor right now. And they desperately need to sell pay-per-views. Okay? Oh yeah, by the way, the only other guy to have like this pulsing weirdness. Oh, why did that show up in his system? Sean O'Malley. Another upcoming superstar in the sport. And I know that maybe like Sean O'Malley's shown no physical signs or has no weird moments or anything like that, but that was another thing where they mentioned the pulsing. Oh wow, the up and coming superstar that could sell a bunch of pay-per-views. I wouldn't be surprised if Paddy Pimblett comes out with a bit of puffy nipples in the future. I mean, that could be blamed on, oh, well, you know, he blows up to like 210 pounds and gets obese and maybe his hormones are all over the place. But I really wouldn't be surprised if Paddy Pimblett grows a breast or has something show up or acne all over his back or some kind of sign like that. Like, it's weird how all of these problems are directly like correlated to like either the superstars coming up or the best fighters by far. You know? Weird to me. Very weird. But I'll just get called names and likely a hater for making this video. I wish I could make it more like the Usman one, but there's less physical stuff. Like, look at this fighter here. But like, I just don't like how dumb he thinks we are as fans. Mainly beyond anything else. Like the Icarus, you know. I've never even seen a roid. You did kickboxing in Thailand. Loads of kickboxing fights in Thailand. You did kickboxing in China, in Japan. You've never even seen one. You don't know how they work. I don't know how they work. I don't even know how they work. I couldn't even use them even if I wanted to use them. Okay, dude. I have a cousin who's been on something. You know what I'm saying? He watched an internet video. It broke it down for him. He just did it. I don't even know how to use them. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't. Okay. Dude. And it's all the finger clicking. This, I'll tell you this. This is a forced sign. This is something actors in movies do. Sometimes someone will do that in real life. Like if they're really thinking about something and they want to show someone, I'm not just being silent, I'm actually thinking about it. It's a forced behavior, doing this to remember something. Okay? That's what it is. It's not something it's just a tick that he has whenever he's thinking about something. It's like if you're thinking there like, and someone's confused as to why you've gone silent and you're going, oh, hang on. You're like showing, okay, I'm actually thinking, dude. Like, I'm trying to think of this happening right now. Let's see if I can remember. But when he goes, and what's that movie? Icarus, immediately. Like, the fingers were clicking before he even knew that he had to think about something. What's that movie? Icarus. Like, you watched the whole thing, dude. You just told us. You know the name of it. What's that? Turinbo, I only know about that because Jones was on it. Like, it's cringe to me to watch it. And I had to make this video to vent myself because I feel like I owe it to you to give you these thoughts that I have. Israel Adesanya is a quality fighter. He's a great striker, okay? I thought he lost to Whittaker, but outside of that, he's won against the rest of them. The Romero fight's iffy, but I'm just a hater for that again, I guess. But, like, you know, he's a top guy. He's a great fighter. He's got skill. He's a good kickboxer. He was winning against Pereira in the rematch before he got KO'd. He arguably could have won the first fight. It's a lot closer than he makes it out to be. But he arguably could have won that fight, for sure, on points. But in kickboxing, they do value aggression a lot more than points. I've just heard Liam Harrison talking about this on Paddy Pimlet's podcast. They score aggression and ring control a lot more than they do in MMA right now. But it's just like, whatever, you know. Oh, the Nigerian, huh? It's just, I don't know. There's all the reasons why I believe it. But whatever. And also, a guy whose job it is, who's made a career of finding out if people are on roids or not, Derek from More Plates, More Dates, has come out and said, I think he's conclusively on something. Definitely, this makes no sense to come out of nowhere on a person. One side, as extreme as it was as well, when he's in peak physical condition, and he's nowhere near puberty. He's in like his I know he acts like he's going through puberty right now, but he's in the middle of his 30s. Like, it's just silly to me. And even USADA, who still to this day claim that John Jones did nothing wrong. John Jones did nothing wrong. He's an innocent guy. It's just a pulsing picogram. Derek from More Plates was looking at his, like, test results of, like, he had the testosterone of a castrated male. A guy whose whatever glands just couldn't produce testosterone. And Derek from More Plates, More Dates is, like, looking at this going, like, you know, I've seen the data that came out about that fight with DC, and, you know, he had the testosterone of, like, an old woman or someone who doesn't even produce testosterone locally in their body or something like that. And then USADA's still like, doesn't really seem like anything to us. Just a pulsing picogram of turinabol. Like, it's just, USADA's so corrupt. This 50 jacket thing is so stupid to me. How it's like, look, guys, he's official now. Look at the jacket he's wearing. He's completely clean. Trust us. Don't ask any more fucking questions. It's just annoying to me. It really is. I wish, just for my heart right now, can we get a Jeff Nowitzki appearance on More Plates, More Dates? Let's get that going. Let's get Jeff Nowitzki on More Plates, More Dates. And let's have him answer some questions that aren't in a controlled environment. Okay? Let's have that happen. Immediately, please. If you really want to be seen as a clean company, let's have Jeff Nowitzki on More Plates, More Dates immediately, please. That'd be a great video. That'd be a really good video for More Plates, More Dates. It'd be a great video for Jeff Nowitzki. Sure. Why not prove that you're so official and legit? Why wouldn't you want to? And for Adesanya, oh my God, I forgot about this. He literally said he doesn't know why people speculate so much about something they know nothing about. But, I wish I would have said this 50 times in this video before now. But he literally said in his interview with Ariel Helwani, he's not going to release the doctor's notes about what caused his gyno because he wants people to speculate. He'll allow them to speculate. That's what he said. So now he's against himself as well. He said that in that Ariel Helwani interview that he had, where he's talking about how it was weed, and maybe it was weed, and who knows, it could be cancer. He even said that, which is just weird to associate to that when we know it's clearly not that, dude. Like, we would have noticed it in you by now. Like, it's been years since that moment. Like, come on, don't do that. But, like, he literally said in that video, he's not going to release the doctor's notes. Why not? If you care so much to have a rage moment at a press conference calling out people that say you're on it, why wouldn't you want to release documents that prove your innocence? I'll leave it up to speculation. Well, we're speculating, and it ain't looking good for you, man. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye.